Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Thank you, Henry, and thanks, Jeff, for inviting me. I want to keep it on gallery so I can see everybody rather than just myself. Well, one of the basic Buddhist teachings is impermanence. It is a given of life. Things begin and end. In the middle, they change. Even a change is a sign of impermanence. It used to be that our relationship was romantic. Now it's conflicted. Something has ended, something else has begun. It seemed at first that my parents genuinely loved me and cared for me. But after a while, I noticed that they didn't really accept me as I am. And so it was hard to believe that the love was going on because something had changed that was so radical. I used to have a connection to a church or a religion, and now it's seems like it's drifted away. That's impermanence. In addition, I see friends drifting away who ghost me. I even see friends dying. It seems everywhere around me is the fact of impermanence. And it's not something to complain about. It's not something to feel bad about. It's just the way it is. And our only safe response can be yes instead of why. So let's take a quick look at Dogen. He lived from 1200 to 1250. He's the founder of the Soto Zen school of Buddhism. He's quite a scholar. And I'm going to share the screen. Henry, can the people in the room see the sharing?
I don't see it yet. Have you started? Now we see it.
You can see it.
Well, I can see it. The print is kind of small. Let me see if I can.
No, I can make it bigger.
Okay, that would help.
Gary, are you here? Gary Ost?
Yes, I am.
Would you read this paragraph for us?
Yes, I need to.
Do you want me to make it bigger?
Here we go. I can read this. For Dogen, Buddha nature is the nature of reality and all being. In the Shabugenzu, Dogen writes that whole being is the Buddha nature, and that even inanimate things, grass, trees, etc., are an expression of Buddha nature. He rejected any view that saw Buddha nature as a permanent, substantial inner self or ground. Dogen held that Buddha nature was vast emptiness, the world of becoming, and that impermanence is in itself Buddha nature. According to Dogen, therefore, the very impermanency of grass and tree, thicket and forest is the Buddha nature. The very impermanency of men and things, body and mind, is the Buddha nature. Nature and lands, mountains and rivers are impermanent because they are the Buddha nature. Supreme and complete enlightenment, because it is impermanent, is the Buddha nature. Would you like me to continue?
Yeah, keep going.
I came to realize that mind is no other than mountains and rivers and the great wide earth, the sun and the moon and the stars.
Gary, do you want to summarize this for us?
Oh my goodness.
Go ahead.
Well, I was, my attention was caught by the phrase about vast emptiness, something that I have been thinking more and more about these days, and that the Buddha nature is more likely to be about empty sky or vast emptiness than it is about anything to point to. So that aspect of impermanence seems to be captured by the phrase vast emptiness. I find that beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. So the quotation continually comes back to the word impermanency and literally synonymizes it with our Buddha nature. So we're enlightened when we're living in accord with our Buddha nature and acting it out in the world. What is this Buddha nature? It's an unconditional yes to the teachings of the Dharma. Here is its main teaching. Everything is impermanent. Grass and tree, thicket and forest. And because it's impermanent, it's the Buddha nature. Because they are the Buddha nature, they're impermanent. He expresses it in both directions. He's trying to show that there's absolutely no doubt everything will be impermanent. So therefore, if we try to grab onto something and make it permanent, we're going to bring suffering on ourselves. If we go along with the program and say, I'm just as impermanent as that tree, excuse me, I go through phases just as that tree does, some pleasant, some unpleasant. And if I can say okay to that, I have a much happier life. So this is our Buddhist background to my topic. My topic is the psychological element that helps us work with these teachings. Since the topic is impermanence, and since impermanence means an ending, then what is the psychological resource in the human psyche that will support our yes? And that psychological element is grief? So our topic today will be the grief that helps us work with the unpleasant, unwelcome fact of impermanence. We notice our friends dying one by one. We notice our own powers diminishing one by one. We notice changes that we did not welcome or like. And here's Dogen saying, all of that is how you actualize your Buddha nature, when you can go with that instead of fighting it tooth and nail or trying to grab onto something and make it last. So we have to have some kind of process or program that will help us with this. And grief is it. So let's start with, what is grief? It's the natural response to loss or change. It's usually characterized by three specific feelings. Of course, the first one is sadness. I'm sad that this has changed. I'm sad that he has died. I'm sad that he doesn't like me anymore. I'm sad that she has betrayed me. I'm sad that I'm not getting what I really wanted. So sadness would be the first feeling one would have to be capable of not only feeling in oneself, but even expressing, like through tears. If the ego is so big that it can't allow the possibility that something was so important that it made me sad, I'm above all that, nothing affects me, that kind of ego won't be able to grieve. Because the whole thing begins with an unconditional and radical vulnerability. To let yourself be sad and let somebody that you respect see that sadness, see you at a low ebb, and for you to welcome that humbly. That's the mindset that initiates a healthy grief. The second feeling, equally important, is anger. I'm really mad that this happened. I don't like this. What is anger? It's dictionary-wise, it's displeasure at injustice. This isn't fair. He went too soon. This isn't fair. I was so nice to him and he turned on me. This isn't fair. I thought what I paid for would last, and it hasn't lasted at all. So there's an element of anger that's totally normal, healthy. This one doesn't require much vulnerability, because now you can come out kind of aggressively toward whatever happened or towards someone. So first, I'm sad that it's gone. Second, I'm angry that it's gone. And third, I'm afraid of life without it. I'm afraid that I won't be able to handle it. I'm afraid that it might keep happening. some kind of fear. That too you will feel vulnerable as you let yourself be afraid. So right away we see with the program of grief, that is the state-of-the-art technique to handle impermanence, will be difficult to pull off if the ego is bigger than the part of us that wants to be healthy. And that is, of course, the same as our Buddha nature. So I'm sad that this has ended. I'm angry at whatever forces made it end. And I'm afraid of life without it. So those are the first 3 steps in the usual style of grief. So now I'd like to open it up for your ideas, questions, comments before I go on to part 2. Just make sure we're all on the same page. Anybody object to the idea? Anybody think this isn't the way to go? The people online, I can see you if you want to raise your hand if you have something to say. The people in the group, Henry, would you let me know if someone in the group has his hand up and I didn't notice?
The song came to mind from Eve Decker, very short, and the lyrics go, all things are impermanent. They arise and they pass away. To be in harmony with this truth brings peace. And that's pretty much the whole of the Dogen passage. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah, our harmony would be going along with the changes. Other ideas?
I was thinking about what you were saying, and I was trying to kind of visualize when you were saying that this is like the normal stages that we tend to go through when we grieve. And I was trying to visualize the alternative, I guess, like to see if like, is that something I ever do, or, you know, so I can recognize it. Like when you were saying that we don't do this when the ego is like bigger or thinks it's bigger than what we're going through itself. I was just trying to kind of like visualize what that looks like how that, I don't know if you can think of an example, because that was kind of a little
Oh,
stuck.
yes. And that's a very good question. So let's take it one at a time. Instead of being sad about what happens, I'll blame someone. Shakespeare in Troilus and Cressida says, one of the characters says, the hope for revenge shall hide our inward woe. If we can get revenge on the one who brought something to an end, we will no longer feel sad. So the first thing is to substitute something. Drugs, alcohol also could work that way, impermanently, like everything else. It's finding an escape, and we're really good at this. We were taught more often to avoid feelings than to express them. I mean, most of us. Part of getting healthier is not only getting in touch with your feelings, but showing them to someone you trust, at least. The ego gets in the way because it believes itself above all that. I'm invulnerable. The anger part, we usually avoid that if we're afraid to show our anger, which would be the equivalent of being afraid to be assertive. Because anger is not in itself aggressive. It simply states your displeasure at what you think is unfair. And of course, it will feel unfair when someone betrays you and ends the relationship going off with someone else. That's certainly a reasonable moment at which to feel anger. But you're not going to express it in an aggressive way. You're not going to retaliate. But you are going to speak up and say, hey, this really hurts. And, have a conversation in which you show that. The other person may no longer care much because his mind is already on what's coming next. But that's not going to stop you from making your statement. Then comes the fear. Oh, I'll never find anybody else. And nobody will ever want me now. I used to be cute. Now I'm not. Whatever, those kind of statements. Instead of, I'm just going to see what happens. And I'm going to feel the fear and I'm going to reach out anyway. Once I go through my grief reaction, I'm going to date again, let's say. And by the way, the nature of grief is that it takes some time at the beginning, and then it keeps coming back in other forms, especially in dreams, and that every person grieves in his or her own way. So it's not as if we can say, well, here's what it looks like and here's how long it lasts. It's going to be different for every person. Sometimes you don't feel anything until the anniversary. Did I answer your question well enough?
Yeah, that was actually really, really useful. Thank you. It definitely, yeah, I could see that. It was very useful.
Okay, well, you ask me again if something else comes up.
Thank you.
Okay, way in the back, would you hand the microphone to
Okay, my name's Cass.
Hi, Pat.
I'm just, could you talk a little bit about the significance of sharing your grief with somebody else as opposed to processing it on your own?
It's a crucial feature of it since we're social beings. That's why there's a funeral in which you invite all the friends, because you want to feel the grief in the midst of the other people who love the lost one the same way you did. So there is that element of it, public nature of grief. And it helps you very much when you notice that other people feel as you do and support you in your feelings rather than try to talk you out of them. It also seems to mean a lot that people want to be with you in your sadness, in your grief, that they care about you in that way. You would have to be the kind of a person who says, I want to feel this, rather than get me out of here. And it's hard to be the kind of person who would say, I want to feel this all the way to the bottom. Don't make nice. Don't make it easier. I want to go through it just as I need to. Of course, it doesn't end with the three feelings. We're going to go on. Something about letting yourself feel sad and anger and fear, and that would be in any order. Sometimes you can only feel the fear part, and then a few weeks later, you notice yourself feeling the sadness. The technique that I use is very simple. I call it freeze frame. I'm walking across the room here, and all of a sudden, I'm struck it's as if a lightning bolt hit me. I just suddenly feel sadness about something that happened a couple of months ago, but I still haven't really worked it out. I stop in my tracks. I just freeze frame. And then I picture the feeling coming into the top of my head, and I feel it shuddering through my whole body, all the way down to my feet. And when it gets to the soles of my feet, I release it into the earth. Because, as Dogen said, the plants, the mountains, the earth are all Buddha nature. So I'm sending this feeling in its experienced state. I'm letting myself feel it all the way down through my body. And in its experienced state, rather than its avoided state, the earth will receive it. So that's my first step. And I've been doing that a lot. Even though you're watching a movie and you suddenly have the recollection of, oh, I went through that same thing. Oh, now something's coming up about what I went through. Press pause, just sit there, feel it going through. And when you do this 200 or 300 times, it starts to lighten up, depending on how serious it is. The other analogy I use in my one of my books is called How to Be an Adult. And I like the analogy I used in that book, that a healthy adult uses the metaphor of a landing strip. Some things that happen in your life land smoothly, safe landing. Others crash. But the landing strip, which is the inner you, remains. And you can trust if there is a crash landing, the guys are going to come out and they're going to clean the whole thing up. And you'll be flat again and available for the next landing. And it has to be okay, as it is for any landing strip at an airport, that anything can happen. So that would be one of the ways of knowing that it's okay with you now, that life happens the way it does. So that's the second part, is as you go on, you don't think, oh, it's all done, it's all wrapped up in a bow. You say to yourself, it can hit me at any time. When it does, freeze frame, let it happen, like lightning through a lightning rod, purpose of which is to go to ground so that you can be safe. Safe from what? Safe from being overwhelmed by grief, rather than relate to it and process it. That's how it becomes resolved. And then finally, as you do this over and over, you notice that you're now holding the loss in a way that does not stress you, confuse you, throw you off kilter. You have found somewhere in your heart to hold the lost one in a metta style, in a friendly style. And it no longer hurts. There's no anger left. There's no sadness, really. It's more like nostalgia. But it isn't letting go because that person was important to you. Questions about this part?
Dave, I have a question.
Henry.
My question is,
Pardon?
is grief the only reaction we can have to impermanence? Is there another way to, can we, I don't know.
Well, you could be so friendly with it. You could just say, hey, this is the way it is. I'm totally for it. I'll go along with it. I'm so used to it, I don't even feel much grief anymore. Yeah, that's possible. But grief deepens us. Shrugging it off our shoulders. Is that how you say it? Well, just say shrugging it off. Shrugging something off doesn't deepen you. Feeling things deepens you, if that's what you're going for. What does deepen mean? You have grasped meanings in an experience that weren't visible on the face of them. You have found significance that helps you live and that you can share with others. That's what's meant by it has deepened. What has deepened? Your place in the world, your reality, who you are. Now let's take this statement by Master Eckhart, Christian mystic, Middle Ages. There's no mention of God in the statement, but I've been thinking about it so often over the past months. The fact that I keep thinking about it shows me that something must be about to happen where I'm going to need this statement. So I know it by heart. I'm going to share it with you. I would love to get your take on it. Because if you want an example of depth, he's the one to go to. Everything is meant to be lost, that the soul may stand in unhampered nothingness. I can't get over that he even thought of this. There's so much to it. So it's not that things are just changing and ending. They're meant to change and end. And there's a reason they're meant to change and end, according to him. It's so that we could wind up totally free of ego. Nothing left but Buddha nature, are in his world, nothing less than the indwelling Holy Spirit. Everything is meant to be lost. He could have said everything is meant to be let go of. No, he's not going to please the ego by making sure you get a little power. No, everything is meant to be lost. And when that happens, you will find yourself in a whole new place. You will be nothing other than your true self. Unhampered. When he puts the word unhampered in, that means that the things that we were losing, that are things that are meant to be lost, they were actually hampering us on our journey. They weren't really supporting our freedom from ego. It's so profound. Every word of it is so significant. So I'll just say it once more because I so enjoy saying it. Everything is meant to be lost, that the soul may stand in unhampered nothingness. Anybody have an idea about that one? Because it certainly goes with our topic. If everything is meant to be lost, that means everything is supposed to be impermanent. And it certainly means don't try to cling to something. Any ideas?
Dave,
Yeah, Gary.
Gary,
Nice to see you.
nice to see you. Did the quote end with that the soul may stand in unhampered nothingness? Is that what you said? Okay.
Nothingness. I take that as nothing left of ego.
Yeah. I take it as the empty.
Part that wants to gain ascendancy, that believes it's entitled to special treatment, that thinks it's better than everybody else. The part that loves separateness, the exact opposite of our Buddhist teaching. Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
It just reminds me of the beauty I feel when I hear the phrase empty sky.
Yeah.
Just like blue forever.
Mm-hmm.
Or also like Chogyam Trungpa's quote, the bad news is you're falling through air with nothing to hold on to and no parachute. The good news is there's no ground.
Yeah.
Because it's all empty sky.
Mm-hmm. It takes a while to come to these realizations, doesn't it? But things happen that point in those directions. What direction? The direction of the journey toward wholeness, which in our tradition is a journey toward emptiness. By the way, I have a new word for emptiness, just the one I use. I now call it spaciousness, so that it doesn't sound so negative.
Right.
Some other ideas?
I was just thinking about the word meant, like just the idea of something being meant to be, like when I kept hearing that, like I was noticing that I was having this interesting little reaction like with that word because it almost sounded judgmental. But then I was thinking, then I thought about it differently and I thought, well, it could just mean more just like accepting things are just that way.
Yeah,
Like
it's just that way.
Yeah, because my first reaction was like, well, how do you know? Like when like someone's saying everything was meant to be lost, just I was reacting to that. But then I thought, well, if you just observe the way things are and you accept them, then that's why they're meant to be. So it's kind of more like from the point I was thinking of it more from the point of acceptance, and then it sounds very different. And I was thinking about, I don't know why I started thinking about this. I was just I was thinking about my fish tank. And like when I was a kid, my dad would always tell me if a fish dies, don't ever like dispose of it, give it to me. And he would, when a fish died, you know, as they do, he would get the fish and he would plant it with somewhere in his garden. And then he would explain to me how later that fish would actually, you know, it would decompose and its nutrients would go into the plants, and then the plants would grow into other things like flowers and fruits and things, and it would just become something else.
Hmm.
And so I was thinking about, instead of looking at everything was meant to be lost, I was thinking more like everything just changes, and you can look at it like loss, or you can look at it like it's changing. So like what you were saying about the spaciousness and the emptiness, it has like a
Mhm.
slightly different kind of connotation, but it's the same thing. So
Yeah, I like what you're saying, and it would be like, um, it would be up to each of us to take a statement like that. And I do recommend this when you hear a statement from a mystic or a saint or a bodhisattva, and you don't quite fit with it, you just stay with it first by making the change in the way it's worded that fits for you. And then that could be the first step in the direction of what the original words were. I really think that's a good idea. So instead of saying everything is meant to be lost, that the soul may stand in unhampered nothingness, you could say everything is meant to be let go of so that something new can appear. And that will lead me to my Buddha nature and the release from ego. You could put it that way just as easily. And just keep the other statement somewhere written down. And, look at it after 20, 30 years, see if it makes any more sense. Or keep the version you have. This is how I would look at it. You're not fooling yourself. You're just seeing where you are and letting that be okay as a starting point, rather than what Master Eckhart came up with. He was a monk who spent years in contemplation. So he has a whole other way of looking at it. He lives in the Middle Ages in Germany, a whole different world from our own. So maybe we're not ready to see it quite the way he did. That was a very good question, and I like the way I answered it because I'm making room for personal possibility rather than just follow what the master says. I've been saying this to Christian groups too. I started saying, you can have your own theology. You don't have to just follow the teachings that the church presents. You can come up with your own ideas of how things are and live with them for a while. Just see how it feels. Does it make you a better person? Or is it some kind of escape? Or is it even more meaningful than the original one that you got from religion? I'm saying that now and believing it. And I find it I notice people find it very helpful. And this applies to Buddhism also. Experience it the way you experience it. And as I say, you go back to the sutras 20 years later and see if they make any more sense than they did originally. Okay, I will end with just saying how much I appreciated being here and doing this. And there's a lot more to it. So, and the lot more to it is in you. So if you reflect on some of the things we talked about today, you'll find yourself coming up with your own Dharma teaching. I really believe that. I'm just starting you off and starting myself off. So thank you and good luck with that. By the power of this and of all our practices, may we deepen our commitment to the heart of Buddha to co-create a world of justice, peace, and love for all beings.